Some of the basic issues I see with guys on side control is the lack of the ability to drop their hips. Okay, so whether it's a mobility issue, a flexion issue, we're going to look at how we need to be able to drop our hips backwards, taking our feet off the ground, controlling the hip, being able to rotate and be fluid in that space. Right, we've got a few exercises that's going to help with your adductors and the strength that's required to keep everything off the ground, right, and keeping your weight on top of the dummy.
One of the biggest work-ons people have is their ability to be aware where their spine is in space and time. What I'm going to look at here is a Superman. My goal is to put everything in neutral, maintain this position while I go opposite arm, opposite leg, and down. Opposite arm, opposite leg, and down. And same timing off the ground. What I'm watching for is that I don't start with an arch, or I don't create one as I go into the movement. So I set my pelvis, my back's flat, opposite arm, opposite leg. One more thing you might see in this is people's hips tilting. I want to try to make sure I keep my hips leveled as well. Everything's nice and controlled. Next up, we're going to do our quadrupted shoulder taps. I'm going to put myself in my Superman position. I'm going to take my knees off the ground and try to put my weight into my hands. So my weight's mostly forward. From here, I'm going to go hand off the ground, touch my shoulder, hand off the ground, touch my shoulder. Knees stay off the ground. My goal is to limit how much hip shift I have. Big emphasis, slow off the ground with the hand, slow off the ground with the hand. Up, 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 up. Okay, catch my breath again. So the next one we're going to look at is squat to rotate. This I really like for opening up the adductors, getting into the hips, developing hip mobility, as well as adding some thoracic mobility in there, so upper back range of motion. I take my feet wide for my squat position. I'm going to sink down, grab my ankles with my hands, use my elbows to push my knees out, try to sink into my hips and stay nice and upright. From here I hold. I'm going to rotate to the ceiling, rotate to the ceiling. To come up, I like to just push my hips up and then stand back up. Take a few. And the last one, we're going to look at a Cossack squat. All I'm going to do is I take one foot in my sort of squat position. I take my other foot a little bit longer, pointing out to the side. I'm thinking about really sitting and squatting into this right side hip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squat down. I'm going to let this side lengthen as I come down and then come back up. I squat down, weight through the heel, into the hip, lengthen, and come back up. Notice how this foot naturally is going to turn out and the weight's on the heel. So I'm down, stretch,